Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of the Film Room podcast. I'm your host, Joe Baress, along with my co-host, Joby Fawcett. Joby, you finally joined us. How's it going?
Joe, if I told you to ruin the rest of your week, look, I really enjoy high school football like no other person, especially in our profession. At this time of the year when you're trying to kind of grind it out, much like the players themselves, getting ready for the postseason here. And it's extremely difficult to find information out on some teams that we're playing here moving forward, but we're doing the best we can. We're trying to do the research, do the work necessary to get our readers out there ready. And it's a little bit of a challenge tonight, Joe. I'm not going to lie to you.
I believe you. Well, we have someone with us who has been absolutely putting in the work. Chase Taddonio, our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week. Chase, how we doing, man?
Good. How about you guys?
Good. Thanks for joining us. What Chase did on Friday, he had 164 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on 22 carries. He's also 5 of 11 passing for 46 yards to lead Riverside to the District 2 Class 2A football title with a 24-6 victory over Dunmore. Chase, I just want to start there. Obviously, last year you made it to the title game, lost to a very difficult Dunmore team that ended up making it to, I believe, the state semifinals last year. You come all the way back and get this district title. I mean, you had a few days now. What does this district title mean to you and your team?
I mean, it's awesome to finally bring home the gold. You know, it's been 14 long years in the program. We've been waiting to get back. And we got back last year. We couldn't get it. So this year finally feels good to, secure the win and get the gold there.
So, Chase, let's kind of let our listeners out there get to know you a little bit. 2 years ago, you were our representative for Riverside in Game Face, the preseason edition, and you had just started to kind of cut your teeth a little bit as a quarterback taking over for the great Johnny Gilchrist. And what many people may not know about you is that you are a converted running back. And you kind of had to revert back to that a little bit on Friday night against Dunmore. And it was a great formula for success in winning the District 2 championship. Kind of tell me about how much you've enjoyed that transition to the quarterback position, but yet still like to run the football.
Yeah, I don't know if my memory's off, but I think Friday there might be a handful of games where I have more rushing yards than passing in my career. That might have been my first. I really don't know, but I find ways to kind of integrate that running back aspect of football into playing quarterback. I mean, I feel like one of my strengths is throwing on the run. So, I just kind of try to incorporate that as much as I could, whether I'm throwing on the run or I'm pulling it down and taking off. So that's really important for a football team when you can have a quarterback along with, obviously the running back. When you have 2 guys that are threats to run the ball, it opens up a lot of things for your offense.
Yeah, absolutely, Chase. And like you said, I believe you had 22 carries in the game. I think that's the most you've had in a game all season.
I believe so. In my career.
Yeah, so exactly. So that kind of takes me to my next question. You guys are obviously known as, high volume passing, quick attack, put up a ton of points. But this year I found it very interesting. That is not the only way that you guys have won games. Obviously you have talent on both sides of the ball. How important was it for you guys? You've won some games because of your defense. I mean, how important was it for your team, kind of to evolve this year and be able to win in multiple ways?
Yeah. I feel like in the recent years, obviously, when you got one of the best receivers to ever come out of Lackawanna Football Conference, you're going to be throwing the ball a lot and you're going to rely on that aspect of the game. But I feel like in previous years, we kind of relied on our passing game to get us into shootouts and we'd ultimately come short. But, I feel like this year we're kind of putting everything together on the defensive side, and on offense, we got the run game and the pass game going this year more than others. So again, I think that really spreads out the defense and that, you can attack them many different ways. And I feel like we have the most diversity this year than I've ever had playing quarterback.
Chase Taddonio joining us here, the star quarterback for the Riverside Vikings, who captured the District 2 Class 2A championship on Friday. Chase, you mentioned one of the best receivers of all time in the conference, Reese Gahan. He was there for 2 of your years as quarterback. And let's throw your numbers up there too, because you've taken your place in school history as well, with now 5,617 yards and 71 career touchdowns. You were able to pass your coach, Harry Armstrong, on the school's all-time list. And now I believe you only trail Johnny Gilchrist in both of those categories. What does that mean to you to be able to have such a great place and have such a great legacy with this program?
I mean, it definitely means a lot to me. Coach Armstrong and Johnny, two of the guys I really attribute my success to. I mean, they kind of, back when I was in 9th grade and 10th grade, before the season started, they really molded me into the quarterback I am today. So, I really give them a huge chunk of my success, along with, all the playmakers I've played with throughout my career. I mean, that we've had some really electric skill players come through Riverside, and it's awesome to be able to throw to them on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, speaking of your teammates, right now you guys have obviously some incredible athletes. You got Tavion Branches being recruited Division I. I mean, this is going to be tough to narrow down for you, but what teammate so far this season has kind of impressed you the most?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I can narrow it down to a single teammate. I think that we're really showing a lot of improvement, and people are stepping up in all positions. I mean, we've got guys playing. I would like to point out that our run game has obviously drastically improved, and I'd like to just point out that our entire starting offensive line has never played football before until the varsity level. So I think that's something to note. And we got a lot of guys out there that are just stepping up in positions through injuries this year. We've dealt with a lot of that. So I don't know if I can narrow it down to a single player, but we got guys stepping up all over the place.
Chase, let me ask you, I was on site for the Week 10 matchup up there at Lackawanna Trail. You suffered a slight injury on the first play of the game, kind of limited your mobility a little bit in some of the play calling you were able to do against Lackawanna Trail, and you guys at Riverside suffered a tough loss in that game heading into the District 2 playoffs. Richie Kostoff, obviously your star tight end and linebacker, was also injured in that game. How quickly did you have to kind of get your teammates together? I kind of heard a little bit of the post-game speech from Coach Harry Armstrong, kind of put that in the memory banks pretty quickly, but use it still as motivation to reach the ultimate goal, which was to beat Dunmore in the district championship game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, since it's a Week 10 game, maybe if that happens early in the year, you kind of really try to correct your mistakes there, and you're you're definitely dwelling on it a little bit more, I'd say. That's just human nature. But Week 10 there, you gotta find a way to just put that away, and still, you gotta correct the things that went wrong, but you gotta just focus on Week 11 after that. And I think we did a really good job of that. And, so unfortunate things happen in all sports. And unfortunately, two of us happened to get hurt, and me on the first play of the game, that really limited our play calling abilities on the offense. But I do think that with everything that happened, it was definitely in some ways a positive for us, that it showed us, what we have to do to become state champions, because ultimately Lackawanna Trail is going to, make a deep run in that 1A bracket there, in my opinion. So I think that showed us what we have to, step up and do.
Yeah. Chase, talk a little bit about your role. Not so much on the field, but, as you've grown with this team this year, kind of how has your role changed this year compared to previous years?
Yeah, I mean, I think even though, even being the quarterback the last 2 years, I definitely still relied heavily on, some of my guys. Just to note some, Reese Gahan, Robbie Garvey, and Chad Hoskins. I mean, they were incredible leaders for our team. And, I still, have kind of, banked on them a lot for a lot of things. And, this year I just, me and Richie had to kind of just step up a lot more, because, we got a lot of kids that are newer this year from the junior high program. We lost a pretty big nucleus from last year. So, we just kind of took it as it is and stepped up in that leadership role and kind of get everybody going week to week.
Chase Taddonio, quarterback from Riverside, joining us here on the Film Room podcast. Joe, what is this, episode 13 or something?
13, lucky 13.
Wow, lucky 13. Yeah. So, Chase, listen, I have to ask, because I had the opportunity to, remember I visited in the summer, of course, for your guys' practice at Riverside, but I also got a chance to visit Riverside coaching staff when they were hosting the Dream Game this year and coaching in that game. So I've known Coach Harry Armstrong a very long time. He went to Lafayette after I did.
Yep.
But I listened to some of his play calls, and it boggles my mind. Is his playbook, is that as crazy as it sounds when I hear a play called? How do you manage what the intricacies of and the madness that is Harry Armstrong's offensive mind?
Well, definitely I could probably, predict that it's probably more complex than other teams. That's what you get when you come here. I mean, we got a complex offense, and I feel like our guys execute week to week. I mean, it's not that big jumble of words you hear. I mean, we rep this from May, June, all the way until August, every day of the summer. I mean, going to camps 2 hours away, scrimmaging teams and joint practices during the week. So, I mean, yeah, it may be a 20-word play call at the end for, anybody listening outside, but everybody in the huddle, it's pretty much second nature at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of, preparation, how has the preparation been? You're going to face Lansdale Catholic in the opening round of the state playoffs. What's kind of your preparation been like, and what do you know about Lansdale Catholic?
Yeah, I mean, we know they got some incredible athletes down there. They're gonna come at us, and we just gotta be able. We got some athletes too, so we gotta be able to just go at them, give them kind of a taste of their own medicine with that, and in my opinion, preparation's the biggest key when you're playing in November and December. You don't really. I mean, these coaches they've been coaching against each other for a decade or two now. They know what they might see from each other, but when you're playing these teams, you really never face them most likely. So get on the film and all that stuff. That's really the most important, in my opinion, for this time of the year.
Well, Chase, I just want to thank you. I don't know how much more Joe's going to ask you, but it's been real exciting covering you over the last couple of years. I feel real happy for you because you and I talked a couple of years ago and you were making that big transition, and it certainly has worked out. And it's been a while, like you said, for Riverside to celebrate a District 2 championship, and it's a great program down there, and we wish you the best of luck in the state playoffs.
Appreciate it.
Chase, the only thing I'm going to ask you is, obviously we're in an area of plenty of Penn State, plenty of Eagles fans. Reading your Athlete of the Week, seems like you're a fan of both. For Penn State, disappointing loss to Ohio State a week
I was there.
ago. Yeah, and you were there.
I was there live every home game so far. So.
That's awesome. So you go to every home game. That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell me about what that. I mean, obviously a disappointing loss, but Penn State, Ohio State. I've been there. I've been to that game. I think once. It was like 17 years ago though. But what was it like being down there for a game like that?
I mean, ever since I was a little kid, my dad was alumni, so he was the one who got me into Penn State football, and I never really went to a game until I was like 10 years old, I'd say. And I mean, just being like, first time I was there, I was just like, my jaw dropped. I mean, it's so fun to go down there. Before the game, you're out in the parking lot tailgating with people, eating great food. I mean, you're talking to people that you've never met before, and then you're in the stadium, and I mean, it's one of the biggest capacities in the country. So, I mean, you got all those fans going nuts before the game. I mean, it's awesome down there.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think of Penn State? I mean, I think unfortunately that was just a bad loss to Ohio State. It was right there for them, but I mean, overall, I think they've been a really excellent team. I'm a Michigan fan, so I'm happy that we actually don't have to play you this year. Yeah, we don't have a quarterback. Could we have one of yours? But yeah, no. What do you think of the team this year? I mean, obviously the playoff is still open for them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with 12 teams, so it kind of opened up an opportunity for us to sneak in there this year. So, hopefully we went out and don't have any trap games to close out the year, and we'll get in there and hope. I'm seeing, I believe right now if the season ended today, all that stuff, we'd be playing Notre Dame. So, I mean, I think at a home game at Beaver Stadium. So
yeah,
that would be awesome to see if I got down there.
Definitely.
Well, I hope you get down to that if they play in the playoff, Chase.
Yeah, seriously, that would be incredible. All right, Chase, I think that's I think that's all we got for you. Again, I'll echo Joby's statements. I mean, congratulations on a great year already, and good luck this weekend against Lansdale Catholic. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chase.
All right.
All right, so that was Chase Taddonio of Riverside Football, our Times-Tribune Athlete of the Week. That's a fantastic interview from him. Joby, I think let's talk about that game just a little bit more. Obviously, he covered it, but I kind of said during the interview, what impressed me about Riverside this year is that they figured out multiple ways to win games, and they really were more versatile of a team. It felt like this year. Do you kind of echo that, or what do you think of Riverside so far this year? They're still going.
Yeah, Jones, well, listen, I mean, look, when you have 3 or 4 quarterbacks under the tutelage of Harry Armstrong who's thrown for more than 4,000 or 5,000 yards in their careers, clearly his recipe for success is always through the air. Okay, he does have a complex offensive system. There's no two ways about that. I don't know if he picked it up at Lafayette or where he picked it up, but he has a great offensive mind. But what he has been able to find out a little bit about himself this year is he realizes that he's got a Division I lineman in Tavion Branch, and he's got another couple of kids up front who can really do some things athletically and are physical football players. Quinn Pusilowski moved down from running back to guard, and he's a physical football player. So and with Chase Taddonio, who is a physical runner as well as an outstanding passer, he kind of figured out that he could use that two-way attack there with the running quarterback, and it's really worked out well for him. He also moved Richie Kostoff into the backfield at 230 pounds, so that's a big man running at you. And look, he's an outstanding football player on both sides of the ball. He's a terrific tight end. As we know, he's the record holder, apparently, for the most catches in a career. And so they had all the pieces. And I think at the end of the year here, and after the loss to Lackawanna Trail, where, again, with Chase being out and unable to play, it really kind of limited what he could do in terms of his game plan. Okay?
Right. And
Riverside did not do well after Richie Kostoff went out of the game with an injury. I think they gained 1 more yard. The rest of them been falling behind 42-7. But I think what he realized in that game was, if I want to win the District 2 championship against a quality Dunmore opponent, which has great tradition, and had played Riverside real tight in the first game of the year, if you remember back, 16-3.
Yep.
I think he figured, hey, I'm going to keep the ball in my best player's hands, and Chase Taddonio, and I'm going to either run the football or if I need be, I'll throw it. But most importantly, I want to keep the ball in his hands. He did so 20-plus times, and it resulted in a big rushing day for him and a big 24-6 victory.
Absolutely. Joby, you were out there this weekend, obviously, as you always are. What I'm kind of curious about is what looked like to impact a lot of games. Obviously, players and teams made the plays, but I think what was definitely a factor out there, it seemed like, was the wind, Joby. What was the wind like out there for you, and how did you stay warm?
Well, first of all, Joe, I was at Lackawanna Trail. You may forget that, but
yeah, you're right.
And the wind doesn't affect Lackawanna Trail too much because
okay, fair.
The Lions are going to run the football till the cows come home, as they used to say in the old days.
Right.
But, hey, Tyler Jervis threw a couple of nice passes, but the Tri-Valley made some nice defensive plays against him. So it didn't affect me at all, Joe. I was in shorts. I didn't think it was all that bad Friday. But listen, I saw a couple of really good football teams play on Saturday, okay, with Abington Heights and Delaware Valley. And that lived up to its pregame billing, Joe. You remember I saw the first meeting between those two teams.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That was a wild 35-28 game with Logan Olsemer scoring a touchdown with 6.4 seconds left for the game-winning points. And boy, you do all the research, you get yourself ready previewing this game, and you come to the realization that sometimes you don't really know enough about the two teams until you really have to dive into it. It's kind of like when you were preparing for those chemistry exams at Holy Cross, Joe. You really didn't know anything going into the test, but right the day before, you kind of crammed it all in there. So Delaware Valley had never lost a district championship game. I didn't know that until I dove right into it, and I did the research. I actually did some work, and I found that out. Abington Heights, of course, hadn't won a district title since 2016, so It was extremely motivated. And it was a heck of a football game. Now, Joe, listen, much like when Chase Taddonio got hurt against Lackawanna Trail, Abington Heights suffered a major setback in this game. Now, the Comets jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Nick Bradley's throwing the ball all over the place, just as he did the first time around against Delaware Valley. But the defense played much better and limited Delaware Valley in the first half. No points till late in the second quarter, till after Nick Bradley suffered his injury. Okay. Status unknown for this week, Joe, but listen, it was not an injury that you want to endure. Let's just put it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be okay, but it's not one you're going to press necessarily, but we'll see. Sean Theodore, who was the starting quarterback in his sophomore season, it would have been Nick Bradley's freshman season. He steps in. Joe, what impresses me is anytime a kid can come in, he has to do a lot. Now, look, he threw 2 interceptions. One got returned all the way down, set up a touchdown. Abington Heights got the ball in its own 2-yard line on a great punt by Delaware Valley's Logan Olson, okay? Theodore methodically moved the team down the field, kept moving the chains, took what the defense was giving them. 3-4-yard carries. There was no panic in offensive coordinator Greg Justave's approach. Then, in desperation, on a 3rd and 15, Theodore breaks a tackle that would have been a terrific sack for Delaware Valley if he could have completed it. And he threw the ball downfield. Shane Brower spikes it out of the air, and a play later, Theodore scores from 2 yards out for a touchdown. Abington Heights' defense kept Delaware Valley out of the end zone and secured a 20-14 win. Just a terrific football game between two real quality programs. I couldn't be happier for Coach Joe Repsch, Joe, because you remember back in 2020 when COVID hit, there were 2 schools that did not play in 2020.
Yep.
Abington Heights and Carbondale area. And that's almost like I don't want to use the term death sentence, but it really is a major setback to a program when you just cancel a season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these kids, this senior class came in and helped rebuild this program. And look at where Abington Heights is now going to be playing in the state playoffs here this week against Hollidaysburg. Just a terrific job by the coaching staff at Abington Heights and the players.
Absolutely. Sean Theodore had 29 yards rushing and a touchdown on 8 carries. He had 4 catches for 44 yards and was 5 of 9 for 60 yards. Passing, like you said, just coming up with big plays, stepping up into the shoes of obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the area. And Shane Brower had 4 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. He added 20 yards rushing on 2 carries. So congratulations to Abington Heights on advancing. In Class 4A, obviously, Joby, I was not at a game. I was updating the scoreboard for the night, but I did have the Valley View game on, and Joby, it was windy there.
Apparently, you're like the weatherman.
You must have missed it. You must have missed it. Listen,
I'm telling you, Joe, it was a little bit breezy. No, it was breezy at Lackawanna Trail, but again, I grew up in the country. None of that stuff bothers me. I just don't like snow.
That's true. You and me both. Joby, do you have a cuckoo clock, by the way?
Yeah, why did you hear it?
It's the first time I've heard it. That was fantastic.
Joe, listen, for those people who don't, for everyone listening at home, here's the thing. We work from home now, right?
That's right.
Okay? And Joe, that cuckoo clock, believe it or not, keep me on schedule. If I'm not done with whatever I had assigned for the hour that I'm working, and when that cuckoo clock goes off, I've got to hustle.
That's awesome.
That's my signal.
I loved it. Oh yeah, you were in the middle of talking about Abington Heights. I think I stopped listening and just listened to the cuckoo clock. I'm sorry. But when in the editing process, it might knock out the background noise. But I hope it doesn't knock out the cuckoo. I hope someone hears it. But
give away all my secrets.
Exactly. So anyway, I'm sorry. Valley View beats Dallas 41-14. It's a game that was closer than the score would indicate, but Valley View ends up scoring 35 straight points. Zach Swolinski, 149 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns on 23 carries, 7 of 12 for 73 yards passing. Nick Kaharski with a nice game, had 2 interceptions. One he returned 30 yards for a touchdown. He had 8 tackles, 2 for a loss, and 2 passes defended. He added 43 yards rushing on 10 carries and a 16-yard catch to boot. And Preston Reed, obviously these names we've seen, but he had 138 yards rushing on 14 carries, 3 catches for 36 yards. But the big play, the big segment of this game ends up being Zach Swolinski throws a pick to start the second half, and Dallas is looking to score a touch. They're up 14-6, and they're looking to score a touchdown and put this game away. Defense comes up with a big stop for Valley View, stopped them just a yard short, maybe less of the sticks on 4th down. And then Valley View absolutely takes that momentum and starts to roll. I mean, you've seen this team, Joby. It's a team that will absolutely wear you down, and that's kind of what happened. And Dallas, there was just really nothing Dallas could do about it. They couldn't do anything offensively in the second half. Again, I don't know how much wind plays a factor, but Swolinski completed some real nice passes. So Valley View is just kind of able to win that game and wear you down like they've been doing all season, and for 11 straight games, capture their first district title since 2021, and obviously avenging a loss against Dallas last season. So congrats to Valley View, and this team has an identity and they lived up to it.
Sure did, Joe. Now listen, that was the theme this week, and I don't know if you caught my notebook. I know you were busy this week, but all 3 teams that had rematches in the district championship games that suffered the losses last year had wins this year. And what a great story for Valley View, because I know some of those kids from last year. And anytime you're involved in a state playoff game where you suffer a loss and the team proceeds to, either advance to a semifinal or a championship game and win or lose in that championship game, it's always something that weighs on your mind a little bit. For the kids at Valley View, it really did, because in losing to Dallas last year in the District 2 Class 4A championship game, I believe it was 21-18 the final score, and Valley View just wasn't able to overcome the inability to knock in some extra points. So all that being said, and knowing and interviewing a lot of these players coming into this season, and knowing the coaching staff there, I'm pretty close with Little Silk Jackson and a couple of the other assistants there, and Christian Reese and others. The motivation here was, look, if Dallas can do it, we can do it. But we've got to first get by Dallas.
Right.
And so that was really the motivation all year. And they had that terrible performance in week 1 against Scranton Prep that I think the players kind of put behind them as quickly as they could, which you have to do if you want to be successful the rest of the season.
Right.
The fans necessarily didn't put it behind them that quickly, but
yeah.
And listen, you're always going to end up having some question marks about where the team's going to end up when you have a loss like that. But these kids responded. I guess 11 straight wins now. And Joe, look, the one thing about the kids from Valley View, we talked with Zach Swolinski here on this show. We know Gianni Marino's an outstanding football player. He was all-state last year. You mentioned the identity of this team, very tough in the trenches. Pick up a copy of the Times-Tribune tomorrow or check online. I have a story on the Valley View linemen, because this group really paved the way for this real balanced offensive running attack that Valley View really thrives on. And with Dallas really, as you mentioned, in the driver's seat in that championship game, Valley View kind of, as seniors, dialed it up. I think they have 24 seniors on this roster. Wow. And you kind of start seeing the sand going through the hourglass, and it picked up the pace and got determined and had a big goal line stand there, and that catapulted them to a great victory. And as you mentioned, the score is probably a little bit more lopsided than what the game was played in between the end zones there. But great performance by Valley View, and now the Cougars get a chance to host a state playoff game this weekend on Friday at 7 o'clock, John Hens's Veterans Memorial Stadium against Pope John Paul II. Now, that's not one person playing in Valley View. That's an entire school playing against Valley View. So don't get crazy on me, Joe, okay?
Hey, you never know if it was Pope John Paul II, going up against.
You have a lot working for him.
The Holy Father. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough battle, but they are not facing just one person. Joby, as we talked about multiple times leading up to the Class 3A playoffs, we had some semifinals. One was an absolute double overtime thriller. We also had Scranton Prep beat Mid Valley, but this Wyoming area Western Wayne semifinal matchup really lived up to. I probably exceeded the hype. I mean, a double overtime victory for Wyoming area. I mean, what a game. Raj Kellum runs for 187 yards and 5 touchdowns on 22 carries. Anthony DeLuca, 6 of 9 passing for 98 yards. He orchestrated the game tying drive, getting over to Western Wayne. I mean, this isn't surprising as he's done all year, but 289 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns on 42 carries for Josh Vinton. Western Wayne loses this game, but this isn't something you hang your head about. I mean, this is 2 great teams going at it, and someone's got to win, Joby.
Well, Joe, they take score for a reason.
That's right.
Especially in the playoffs.
I'm learning.
And you're right. Just 2 terrific football teams. This is a championship game in any other classification. Just happens to be in the semifinals in Class 3A.
Right.
Both teams had a terrific battle, similar to this one. Not quite as exciting in the regular season, so you kind of expected this. By all accounts, I'm following it on Twitter like the rest of us, and then also I'm reading the recap of the game online. It was Wyoming area jumped out to a big lead, and then Western Wayne, again, very senior-laden roster, fought back on the home field at Sharkey Rossetti Sports Complex. And boy, Joe, you get into those overtime periods and Coach Shane Grodak in the second overtime decided I'm going to go for the 2 points after the touchdown and go for the win. Let's put this thing to bed.
Yep. And
you credit Wyoming area's defense. If you stop Josh Vinton from the 3-yard line in, that's pretty impressive.
Exactly. I was going to speak to that too. It's just like, if you're Shane Grodak, why wouldn't you go for 2? You've got Josh Vinton, and I think that's a great call to do it. But again, he ends up getting stopped just barely short of the goal line by Nate Osbrut. Oh, gosh, I don't know his exact name. But
boy, you're going to get an email.
I know. It's like, so that kid, bringing it to wrestling, he's a district champ. He's a district champ heavyweight, and he's able to get a stop. I mean, it's just a great play. It's Nate Obsrut. You know what? Even though I'm looking at it, Joby, I still can't pronounce it, so I apologize. I apologize to Nate. But again, it's just he made a great play, and that's what happens in this game. It comes down to this massive game comes down to 1 2-point call, and it just ends up going Wyoming area's way, but just a great game overall.
Hats off to, let's credit Josh Vinton and wide receiver Sean Owens for the terrific careers that they've had at Western Wayne. The numbers speak for themselves, obviously, but Western Wayne was trying to reach the championship game for a 3rd consecutive season, and those 2 players played a very huge role in the success that Western Wayne has enjoyed during their careers. The legacies are incredible. I mean, they're going to be in the record books for a very long time, and they have a lot to be proud of for this year. First 10-win season in school history. Won the first 8 games of the regular season for the first time in school history. Shared the Lackawanna Football Conference Division II championship with Mid Valley. So great things that were accomplished by Josh Vinton and Sean Owens. But what is the terrible and sometimes heartbreaking thing about the playoffs and the postseason, Joe? You've been there yourself.
Yep.
as a basketball player at Holy Cross, I don't remember you winning any state titles. So, the only one team is standing at the end. So there's always a level of heartbreak at the end of these games. You do feel for the kids, obviously, especially those who have been around a long time. And Josh and Sean are probably going to continue their careers in college, but a lot of the players aren't. And so it was a tough night for them on their home field, but certainly good luck to Wyoming area. Now, Joe, quickly transitioning to Scranton Prep.
Yeah.
So Wyoming area's got a tall task here because Scranton Prep is extremely impressive. Okay. Anybody who has any doubts about how talented this football team is, first of all, I don't know why I'm saying that. Nobody does. I mean, you'd be a fool to think that this team doesn't have an extreme amount of talent. Also very well coached. Okay. Impressive victory over Mid-Valley, a team that I thought was really peaking at the right time. And I don't think Mid-Valley did anything to kind of change my mind about how outstanding a group that Coach Stan Yanowski had there. Jacob Lesher, of course, becoming the all-time leading rusher. The defense was tremendous all year. We already mentioned there that shared the division championship with Western Wayne. But Scranton Prep is impressive. And I've been saying it all year, and preseason number one team for a reason. Up front, just extremely physical. They have those two talented backs in quarterback Lewis Baress and Will McPartland at the running back position. Have some real game breakers at receivers, and the defense is just very, very stout and very well coached. Coach Terry Gallagher does a great job with that defense. Now, I still think this is going to be a pretty competitive game.
Yeah.
It's one that you kind of figured. And truthfully, Joe, it is kind of technically the first round of the state playoffs because everybody else is into the first round in that 3A bracket except for District 2. So, these are two teams that are worthy of this type of game. And I still think it's going to be a pretty good one. And Scranton Prep, of course, has dominated Class 3A since 2015. I think 7 district championships since in that time. The numbers are incredible, Joe, the success that Scranton Prep has had.
Absolutely. Like you said, I mean, they're well coached. They're like a machine out there. And, speaking of legacy, obviously Jacob Lesher ends up having 161 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns on 32 carries, 3 catches for 35 yards. What a season and a career. He had the Mid-Valley's all-time leading rusher now. It's just, obviously we had him here on the Film Room podcast as well. He was, a great kid and, a pleasure to watch all year.
Yeah, he was a terrific football player, and he received great praise from the Scranton Prep coaching staff after that game, by the way. He's an impressive athlete, Joe. Now, he's a multi-sport kid at Mid-Valley. We're going to see him here in the winter for basketball season. He's really a tremendous defensive player, and Mike Abda, the coach at Mid-Valley, loves that aspect of his game. And he'll be on the track in the spring. And I do expect him, Joe, to kind of get some interest here from some local colleges, and I think he can play at the next level. Now, what division remains to be seen, and what position remains to be seen. He could be a receiver. He could be a defensive back, where I think he had 5 or 6 interceptions this year and returned 3 for touchdowns. So he's a talented kid.
Absolutely. And just to go over just a couple of players again, I feel like I could read these stats off any week because Scranton Prep's just been so consistent. But Lewis Baress, 132 yards rushing and a touchdown on 7 carries, 2 or 3 passing, 40 yards and a touchdown. Will McPartland, 130 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on 18 carries. So, like you said, they're going to be a handful for Wyoming area, but Wyoming area is a solid team. So I wouldn't expect, I'd expect a close game. Obviously, Scranton Prep has to be favored in that game, but should be very competitive. The 6A game I will mention, 6A sub-regional title game, Williamsport wins 14-0 over Wilkes-Barre area. Again, wind playing a factor for a Wilkes-Barre area team that's led by Jake Howe, a terrific quarterback in District 2 this year. But Williamsport advances in 6A. So I think we covered all the classifications, Joby.
Well, Joe, let's just touch base real quickly on Lackawanna Trail, just because it was such an impressive victory.
That's true. Yeah.
42-0 over Tri-Valley, and let's give credit to Coach Steve Jervis and his staff up there. Just a great run of success. 4 straight District 2 Class 1A championships and now into the state playoffs for a 4th consecutive year. Joe, if you really kind of, and I know you're a big history buff, go back. Trail had a run under head coach Jeff Wasilchak from 1999 to 2007 where the program won 7 district championships in 9 years. And quite similarly here, Steve Jervis has kind of done the same thing here since 2016, winning 7 championships now since 16 to 2024. Lackawanna Trail is really one of those teams. We're going to find out now what it can do against a very good opponent in Muncie.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe. And Muncie, I believe, is, just a really, really good team out of District 4. And if my research has served me well, Joe, Austin Johnson, the fullback linebacker for Muncie, was the state wrestling champion in 2023 at 250 pounds.
Yep.
He is a physical specimen. If you're 215 pounds, you've got the mentality of a wrestler who is going to Oklahoma State, by the way.
Yep.
He's going to be a handful for the Lackawanna Trail defense, no question about that. And it brings me to, Joe, Lackawanna Trail's had some pretty good teams last year and this year. And last year, of course, had to play against Steelton High Spire, which had all that talent.
Yep.
Alex Irby, just an all-state's all-time leading passer. And now this year, you're going to be facing a kid like Austin Johnson. It's, sometimes even in Class A, it's a tough task to win in the state playoffs. So any team that has any kind of success during these state playoffs has a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Joby, speaking of last year, I mean, Trail was ranked 2 in the state, and they played the number 1 team in the state who ends up winning the state title, right?
Yeah, that's how that played out. And of course, now both of these teams are going to be ranked. We're in the state playoffs now, Joe. We're going to have state ranked teams go head to head.
Is that how it works?
Well, a lot of people always ask you questions. How do you get ranked in the state? Well, at this time of the year, if you're in the final 8, you're going to
be playing the best teams. Huh.
Yeah, final 16. You're going to be probably ranked among the top 10.
I suppose that checks out, Joby.
Yeah.
Let me just go over some stats. Like Isaac Ryan had 86 yards rushing and a touchdown on 11 carries, had 2 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown. He's been great all year. Another person, Max Kimmel, obviously an all-state player, he had an 11-yard touchdown catch and returned a fumble 97 yards for a touchdown as Lackawanna Trail just absolutely rolled to a 42-0 victory over Tri-Valley. So, Joby, obviously you're writing a preview story for each team, and you're doing your research, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anything you want to talk about, leading forward into this first round of the state playoffs as to, who these people are playing? They seem like, obviously, like you said, it's the state playoffs, so they're all going to be tough teams.
Yeah, Joe, the last time I checked, if you're in the state playoffs, you're a pretty good team.
Exactly.
So what we have coming up, we're going to have a little something on every team, as you mentioned. We already have had something on the Abington Heights defense and the great turnaround that group has had. So if you haven't seen that yet, you can certainly go online at the Times-Tribune.com and check out that story. Tomorrow, we're going to have Valley View and its offensive line. Joe, I try to get some other names in the paper, not just the guy scoring the touchdowns and the points. Okay.
That's right.
And we are going to, as you mentioned, preview everything. We're going to have some story on all the classifications. So we're going to move forward. We're going to have something on Riverside in Class 2A. I don't want to give too much away on that one. We're also going to have a nice story in Class 1A on Lackawanna Trail and what has been a tremendous young man who's really done a great job of contributing to the Lions' success, not just this season or last year, but even back when he was a sophomore. People sometimes forget he kind of gave the team a real jolt when it helped turn the season around back 3 years ago. And we are going to do, I know it's not going to be a traditional game face on Friday, but we're going to have a capsule on every game. And there will be a feature on Scranton Prep quarterback Lewis Baress. And I want to give that away because I want to make sure people pick up a copy of the paper on Friday to check that out. He is a terrific young man, not just a quarterback or a running player on the team, he is a really good quality young kid and a leader for Scranton Prep. And we'll have that story for you on Friday.
Absolutely. I'll be excited to read that. I'm a big fan of Lewis Baress as well.
Well, he's
good
a multi-sport. He's a multi-sport kid, Joe. He's a wrestler for you.
He's a state qualifier last year. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'll be excited to read that. Yeah. I mean, keep following along. I think we're going to do our picks again, Joby, this week. We might as well.
Joe, nobody cares who I'm picking anymore because I'm going to pick our teams the rest of the way. But what I will also say is we'll have a capsule on every team as well on Friday.
Right. All right.
Every game.
Excellent. Joby, we unfortunately football as of right now, it is the only fall sport left as
only.
Well, yeah. Sorry. But we still have 5 teams. But anyway, the Wyoming area lost in the semifinals to Boiling Springs tonight, 1-0, and looks like Dallas boys soccer lost in the semifinals as well tonight. So it's all football right now, but I do want to touch on a few things. This was, I believe, 8 days ago at this point, but I did once again cover the Valley View girls soccer team in the first round of the state playoffs. That ends up being a 1-0 loss, but it was just an absolutely incredible performance from goalie Amelia Rux, who ends up having 17 saves in the loss to Shikalemi. Unfortunately, she needed 18, but this was just an incredible performance. It's just kind of, it kind of reminded me of, I don't know how much soccer you watch, Joby, but the watching like Tim Howard Tim Howard for the U.S. men's team back in the day, where he was just standing on his head and keeping the U.S. just in the games. Amelia Rux did the same thing. I mean, there were multiple breakaways where she made diving saves and, just batting the ball above the net on a point blank header, just punches on a corner. I mean, she was really playing the position to perfection. So I know that's a tough loss for Valley View, but obviously great athletes on that team. Maya Cesarini, she had multiple great runs up the left side. Eva Canaveri, just really obviously very impressive. She was a guest last week, being the athlete of the week, and she just had such impressive half field passes, and just watching them too. Obviously, you've said this before, but we kind of try to keep some of the injuries closer to the vest. But there were people on Valley View's a team who were kind of banged up. They obviously had to play later than everyone else, so they didn't have as much rest time in between. So it's a really impressive run by them. And shame it had to end in the first round of states, but again, that's a team that shouldn't hang their heads at all. Joby, I'll kind of let you speak on honestly whatever you want to, but Mountain View volleyball, making the quarterfinals, losing in the quarterfinals, but this is, what a great season for that team.
Joe, I was so happy that I was able to get up to Mountain View last week to cover that Mountain View Northeast Bradford first round state playoff game, because it just showed the true character of the girls from Mountain View, who are a lot of the names are going to be familiar to our fans and those who listen to the show here or read the Times-Tribune. These kids have done a great job of putting Mountain View girls athletics on the map, especially in basketball, having reached the semifinals 2 years ago and the final last year in Class 1A. Addison Town is she's one of the best players in the state in everything that she does. Just it was a really good thing to see that they were able to come back. They jumped out to a big lead after 2 sets. Okay. And then Northeast Bradford, which had beaten them 3-0 in the first match of the season. And it ended up being, a rematch of that matchup. And then Northeast Bradford got some confidence, came back, tied the match, And even in the race to 15, if you get the early momentum in that, it's usually the way the kind of the formula to victory, the path to victory is to get out to a big lead. Northeast Bradford was able to do that, but Addison Kilmer, Riley Kilmer, Rachel Evans, they just played at a very high level down the stretch with the season on the line and came away with a victory. Huge comeback in that final fifth set. And, look, they just ran into a very difficult opponent in Linville Hill in the state playoffs. And as you said, Joe, any team that gets into the state playoffs has nothing to be ashamed of if you get beat. You've certainly accomplished a great deal, especially by winning your district championship. And if you get into that second round of the district playoffs, or the state playoffs rather, like Mountain View did here in girls volleyball, I think that's pretty impressive. So congratulations to all those players at Mountain View.
Absolutely. Rachel Evans in that Northeast Bradford, I believe, had 36 assists, including 7 in the decisive fifth set to give Mountain View their first state playoff win since 2000. Carly Norton had 17 kills. Addison Kilmer had 13 kills and 8 blocks in that match. So like you said, congratulations to them. I just want to touch quickly too on the Scranton Prep boys soccer team. They had a great season, reached the quarterfinals on a Ryan Walsh goal in the first round. And then the defense did what the Scranton Prep defense has been doing all year, really clamping down. They allowed only 3 goals over their last 7 games before the game that they lost in the quarterfinals, but, truly impressive by them as well. And I think Joby, that covers it for us as far as high school playoff coverage at the moment. Is there anything you want to add?
No, Joe, I just want to say it's been a really great fall sports season. Obviously, we still have some football to deal with here in the last couple of weeks. We want to wish everybody the very best of luck. And, it's just been outstanding. We're going to get a little bit of a break here, but don't forget, Joe, too, before I leave you, Friday is the first day of winter sports practice in Northeast Pennsylvania.
That's right.
We want to wish the best of luck to all the winter sports teams that'll be hitting the hardwoods or the wrestling mats or the swimming pool coming up on Friday while I'm still busy covering football.
Exactly. I think it's gonna be a little while for you, Joby. Sorry.
I hope so. I'm rooting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to this week, and I think our teams are going to have some success. And I think that we have some really, really talented teams from the Lackawanna Football Conference still alive. And I still think that 3A championship game is going to be a real good one. And, looking forward to this weekend. It should be a lot of fun for us, Joe.
Definitely, Joby. Well, Chase covered some Penn State, but, we are again, we're back. We are back on track.
Joe, listen, here's the thing with we are Penn State. Okay, listen, they wasted the whiteout against Washington because that wasn't even a real opponent.
No.
People forget that Washington, yes, it went to the national championship last year and played touch football against Michigan. But that team graduated a huge senior class and lost its head coach and most of its assistants. So
yep.
Don't give me we had the whiteout against Washington. Now, that was out of Penn State's control because I believe that the officials probably would have much preferred Ohio State be the whiteout.
That's right.
But, Joe, these TV contracts are so lucrative that, the networks tend to dictate what games get into what time slot. And so Big Noon Saturday on Fox has kind of the cornered Ohio State market, 6 consecutive weeks of noon football for Ohio State fans. But we are big win. Penn State's in line. No doubt about it. Penn State's going to the playoff. There's no doubt.
Could you imagine a Penn State Notre Dame game? Oh my God.
Well, no, again, we're talking big bucks. This is what everybody wants.
Yep. They're going to make it happen. So, Joe, we don't have to talk about the NFL, right?
No, because again, the Los Angeles Rams and the nonsense that outfit likes to pull every time you think they're just starting to turn the corner, They play like they've never played an NFL game before. Now, Joe, they show flashes of brilliance, right?
Right.
They'll get you in 3rd and 13, and of course you'll hear the announcers say, well, they're in a tough spot here at 3rd, and then they'll give up an 18-yard play. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Joe,
it was bad. It was bad.
As much as you would enjoy this to be true, and most soccer players or kickers would like, you can't win with 5 field goals.
No. No, you can't, Joby.
You've got to score touchdowns. There's a reason they put those end zones at the end, and they're worth 6 points, okay?
Exactly.
You've got to score touchdowns to win.
That was brutal. I was thinking about you last night, Joby. I was thinking about you.
No, don't, because I was so miserable. No, I was bad.
All right, Joby. I think, and the Packers were on a bye, so that was nice. And,
well, again, you have to enjoy the bye. You need to get healthy, Joe. You got some tough games coming up.
Oh my God, I know. And I must mention Michigan as well, who lost. But you know what, Joby, it's what it's all about this year from now on. We're covering.
Okay, Joe, you still have Ohio State on the schedule. It could ruin their season. That's
that would be amazing.
To motivate you. I don't think you're going to, but that obviously got to be the objective moving forward.
We would have to, I don't know, get some sort of quarterback. I don't know. But
now, Joe, what I'm also going to preface for you, this is a great weekend for us in high school football with the district and state playoffs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Next week, I'm going to be slightly distracted. I'm probably going to have a lot of work to do. Yep. But for those who don't know, the Lafayette-Lehigh game is the following Saturday. So I will be much distracted from everything that's going on in the world around here. I'll try to keep my focus the best I can.
Yes, absolutely, Joby. Absolutely. Hey, I have no doubt in you. There's an idea, Joby. You think maybe after Friday's games, Michigan could pull a quarterback from, could we take Louis Paris or something? Could we? What do you?
No, that would eliminate their eligibility for the following.
Oh, that's fair. All right. That's fair. All right. I won't be.
What do you want, a PIAA investigation?
I don't aggregate this. I need this to not be aggregated.
No. We're hoping people are listening, Joe.
That's true. That's true. Good point. All right, Joby, this was another great episode. I want to thank Chase Taddonio for joining us. Fantastic interview with him to start the show. Good luck to, as you already said, Joby, good luck to all the teams on Friday to keep their state runs going. Joby, and thank you, Joby. Thank you for joining me once again for episode 13.